Hi there. This is Melody Bacon,
And Ron Bacon.
and we are here to present another topic on managing in relationships, whether you're in a marital relationship or with your parents or children, even bosses, anybody that you may be struggling with. And we are both psychotherapists. We've been working for I think a combined, 50 years?
Forever.
We have. And we've specialized in relationship counseling, focus on managing yourself in relationships, because if you can do that effectively, everything else seems to fall into place. So we wanted to present today about probably the most difficult challenge that anybody will face, and that is managing yourself in an intense emotional situation, particularly with conflict.
Mm-hmm. So, if there's somebody that you tend to have conflict with, this is an opportunity that our tendency is to tell them, quit doing what you're doing that gets me upset.
Right.
And if you want to learn a new skill, I don't think I've ever told somebody who annoys me to do the thing that annoys me more. But I have to at least tell me that. I look, rather than stepping away from it, stepping into it without trying to turn it into World War III. But how else am I going to change me if I don't have the conditions by which I could do it?
Right.
So you begin, instead of saying, oh no, there they go again, you're saying, it's almost bring it on, but the focus is on you, yourself, rather than bring it on, I'll show you what I can do. This is an opportunity for me to change me.
Yeah.
That's what this is. And if you don't have that mindset, or if you lose it, if the focus goes away from you and on to trying to change the other person, recognize it, you back up.
Right.
This is over. I lost. I wasn't able to maintain. I did a little longer. It's not a total failure. I'm starting to see it or feel it in the moment until you can actually do it. That's the effort.
Right. So you're describing a philosophy.
Yes.
And one of the things that we hear a lot in our practice is that we don't communicate. Our problem is communication. And my experience is that that's really code for I'm not able to get my partner to change. He or she isn't doing what I want. Because when I ask the person, what do you mean by communication? And they'll say, well, he's not listening to me. And I'll say, well, how would you know if he's listening? Because he would do X or Y. So it's really not that he's not listening or she's not listening. It's that their behavior isn't going along with what you would like. And this is where people get very stuck, because now what do? Well, usually they go back to having the argument again, maybe louder, more forcefully, trying to use more leverage, if you really loved me, or all these things. And you've all been in repeated patterns of conflict that you've had over and over and over again, and nothing changes. And my clients come in, your clients come in with that scenario, and what I say is, okay, if nothing changes, then you haven't changed.
That's true.
Your effort has been to get the other to change. So, as you noted, what this really is an opportunity to learn to grow yourself and to change how you respond to that, rather than try to solve the problem, which is usually, you're not lining up with what I would like you to do, or even what I thought we had agreed to do. Okay, it's not always you're being a dictator. You and your spouse may have decided, you think, to go along with a certain game plan, and then your spouse is not going along, in your view, with that plan, and now you're frustrated because you thought you had an agreement. So these are all things that are real life situations. And part of the problem that we all face as human beings is that our brains are mostly comprised of the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. And our thinking part is very tiny.
and vulnerable to being overwhelmed.
Very. So a great analogy that I have appreciated by a researcher or author named Haidt, Haidt, is the idea of your brain, your what they call the limbic system, fight, flight, or freeze, is like a big elephant, and your thinking part of the brain is the rider, the person on the top of the big elephant. So the rider, your thinking part, can see fairly clearly up above the elephant. It can learn skills to accommodate to life. It has a lot of abilities. However, once the elephant decides to take off running, all the rider can hope to do is hold on for the ride. It is not going to be able to get that elephant to stop running, and that is where we are. We're in a conflict. We may go in with the best of intentions to have a reasonable conversation. Maybe, I'm saying something like, gee, I thought you were going to take out the trash yesterday, and my partner says, oh yeah? Well, how come you didn't do the dishes? And so now we're arguing about who did what. I get defensive because I do the dishes every day, and I start on running. My elephant starts running down that track. Your elephant goes down you're telling me I'm not doing things right. And pretty soon we're having a whole argument, and we're not really listening to each other. We're not understanding each other. Both of us are trying to get the other one to listen, and the more we try to get the other one to listen, the less likely anybody is to listen to anyone. And then we had an argument that was pointless. Maybe our feelings are hurt. We kind of retreat for a while to kind of lick our wounds. And that's a small example, but it's one I think that exemplifies much of what's going on all the time with us. And then we say we can't communicate.
Right. And I'm thinking about trained and untrained elephants, that the rider is on a trained one.
Yes.
I don't know that even a very experienced rider, you put him on a wild elephant, he's going to do much.
That's a good point.
And, so somebody who's putting chemicals into their system, they've just made what might be a trained elephant a wild one.
That's correct.
And
so someone with a substance use disorder, or perhaps someone from a family background growing up where there was a lot of intensity and conflict, and they've never been able to learn to self-soothe and regulate. So part of what you can do, though, so where does this leave you, right? And my experience is that it's helpful to know when your elephant is getting activated. And some of what you're going to be aware of is going to be your physiology, right? You're going to start to feel at least irritated.
Right. I'm just thinking, if you've never been to therapy, if you're somebody, this is the closest to therapy you've ever been, is looking at a YouTube channel with therapists talking. You have a wild elephant. That's just the case. If your parents went to therapy and trained their elephant, you got some benefit from that.
Yes.
So, but if they didn't, then your wild elephant is the product of other wild elephants. You've got some work to do. That's all.
Yeah, as do we all.
Yes. That you begin the process, and you can take from wild elephant to now trained or tamed
so how
elephant.
do we learn to, first of all, I think respect the fact that this is a reality. You're not going to get to the point where that elephant doesn't take off running sometimes.
Yeah, the best of elephants can do that.
And sometimes you don't want to. If you are literally being chased by a person who's going to mug you down a dark alley, you need that wild elephant to be in charge. You might climb the highest tree you've ever climbed. You've heard of people who pick up a car off of their child who's underneath it. They have the strength of 10 people because of the adrenaline running. So it's part of our survival mechanism. And as such, however, when you're in a conflict with somebody that you're in a relationship with, a particularly an important one, that part of your brain does not have the ability to say, this is not a life-threatening emergency. This is my loved one, and we're just disagreeing over the trash issue. It starts to get activated as though you are threatening my life. And that's when you can have these conflicts that, both of you may be descending into calling names or saying vile things to each other, because that part of the brain is fight. It's either fight or be killed. And I'm going to attack you in a way to make sure that I survive. And then you wake up, so to speak, you come to your senses later, and what did we even say? What happened? And our tendency is to blame the other person, because we don't tend to have those kinds of arguments with people that work or that are not really that important to us. So one thing that you can take away, though, is to know when that's starting to get activated. Your heart rate is going, your blood pressure, you start to feel defensive, you start to feel angry, the next words out of your mouth are going to be not nice. That's a time to say, you know what, this elephant is in charge at this point. All the rider can do, your thinking part, is say, you know what, I'm feeling defensive, I'm going to need to take a break and think about what my position is or what you've said. You don't say, you need to calm down, you need to quit activating me, you need to quit. That's not useful. And then you take a break. It's very hard. I would say that's probably about the hardest thing people do, because your brain doesn't want to take a break.
I find that if I can focus in on my breathing, take a good deep breath, not in, that you can communicate with an exhale.
Frustration.
But not one of those. Just, this is for me. I'm going to slow down my breathing rather than speed it up.
Right.
Can I get myself grounded? Sometimes that's literally just moving a foot on the floor. The other person doesn't have to know you're doing it. You're not pawing the ground like a charging bull. You're just getting yourself centered.
Getting your body
breathing.
connected.
Can I see what I'm seeing at the moment? Can I, and just an awareness, that ability to develop that outside observer of something you're in at the moment. And
it takes practice.
It does.
And I have two, I think, skill sets that I know if I'm not able to employ them, then I shouldn't be having the conversation, because my brain is offline. And you have to respect the fact that your brain's going to go offline, and just, be patient with yourself. And that's when you disengage. Calm yourself down. Do not think about the issue, because that keeps you activated. Take a break and then come back for round two with a brain that's engaged. How do you know if your brain's engaged? Well, two things that I suggest is, one, can you be curious about the other person's thinking? If you're not, if you're just mad, which you might be, don't have the conversation. You don't want to hear what they think. That's fine. Wait till you do. What did you understand our agreement to be, would be a way to do. And really be curious. You're not asking the question to nail them. You're not in court trying to set up those kinds of, did you understand that you were supposed to take the trash out on Tuesday? Yes or no? That's not a question that you're curious about. The question, well, I thought maybe we could wait till Wednesday. That would be kind of a discussion. And the second part of that, so curiosity, you really are not understanding your loved one, and you would like to. Secondly, you will reflect back what they just said. If, for example, I thought that we could wait a day if it wasn't full. Okay, so you thought, even though we had agreed that Tuesday night was the deadline, that you might wait a little bit. Okay. Well, I guess I'm confused because the trash comes on Wednesday morning, so how's that going to work? If I can do that because I really want to know, they might say, well, it's half full, whatever. This is the real discussion that you could have when your writer of your brain is available.
And if you can keep the problem. This is trash not being taken out. This isn't, wow, my partner shows me disrespect.
That's right. If you've gone there, the elephant's in charge. He doesn't love me. She doesn't respect me. she's telling me what to do. Once we get those thoughts in our head, which they come in, you can't stop it. You just have to be aware when you're having them. Then that's another time to disengage. And I think in some, a lot of times clients will say, I'll give these examples. They might give one that, and then they'll say, well, that's not the issue. You know, that's not a big deal. Well, you have to start with a small deal. You're not going to talk about whether we should have another child or not, which is a big deal, unless you've been able to practice with the smaller ones. If you can't have a discussion about the trash where you really are curious about your partner and really want to know more about him or her, how in the world are you going to talk about how much to save for retirement, how much, you know, all these big money, in-laws, kids, sex, those are the big four. And so what we suggest is starting just like any other skill, because you noted this is a skill. You want to learn to have at least a trained elephant, which can still take off running sometimes, but less likely to, because you've been doing this practicing. So to tie in with what you said at the beginning, when you have an opportunity for conflict, that it's not the other person causing you a problem, it's an opportunity for you to say, okay, let me see if I can be a little bit better at holding on to my brain, to my thinking, while this person says anything that they're going to say.
And may, you know, if they're into it and really want to have a fight, they may pull out some stuff, you know, and if you can see the humor in it, this, my, you know, person, the other side, whether it's my partner or whoever,
right,
they think they can get me into the fight. That's
yeah, maybe in the past they've been able to.
I'm on solid ground right now. There's not a chance in the world, and so I think of it more like fishing. They're trolling by with your favorite lure, and you just don't bite.
Yeah,
You're just not biting.
And that's I think a good way to end this episode, which is going in with the determination that you're not going to have a fight. And no matter what your partner says to you, you're not going to bite and get into that, you know, ring, so to speak. But you are going to say, I'm going to see how long I can hold on to my curiosity and reflect back.
Yeah. How long can I ask decent questions?
Right.
Do you think you can get me to fight tonight?
It may be 2 seconds. It may be a minute. You know, you may work up to 2 minutes or 3.
Yeah.
And then you take a break and you try again until you can get better at it. Is this easy? Nope. Is it worth it? Yes. Is there anyone out there whom you would love dearly who you will not have this issue with? No. Not humanly possible. Despite the fantasies that our culture likes to give. That if you have your soulmate, you'll never fight with them. So, that's the end of this topic, I think.
It's exhausted.
It's a good one. And we recommend that if you do have a loved one who's struggling with substance use disorders, alcoholism and drugs and all that, and you're at your wit's end, we recommend you check out our online program for families only who are in your situation called Family Matters. And you can email either one of us at Relationship Visions. Our website is, you should be able to Google a
Relationship Visions Inc.
INC, one word, relationshipvisionsinc.com. And we'd be happy to steer you onto other resources as well. So thank you so much, and let us know how you like our videos.